So BudHibbs is with us because we know we have a lot of folks trying to collect money from them and trying to get out of financial distress. And also attorney Jerry Jarzombek is with us as well.
What we're seeing now is a huge increase in the amount of debts that are being sold. These debt buyers will hire somebody and they'll bring them in. Someone will sign an affidavit under penalty of perjury, submit it to a court, and say, I know John or Jane Doe owe this money.
Well, they do that, but you have to understand what John or Jane think when they get these papers. They think they have no defense to it. They're embarrassed. They put their head in the sand because this is not something that you have as Monday morning water cooler conversation. And because they hide, there's so many of these affidavits that will never stand up to any kind of evidentiary challenge in a court because nobody does challenge them. They're too scared or they don't know what to do.
But what we're trying to do is make consumers aware that you do have a defense. You don't owe Visa and MasterCard. You're being sued by a debt collector who's making claims that in the majority of cases are false, and in a lot of cases they're perjured.
And a lot of this comes from being behind on bills and not sure what to do, and they don't want to get to the point where they're having somebody call. What happens when you do fall behind before you get to the point where somebody calls you?
The worst mistake is to make a deal with a debt collector and give them access to your money. The absolute worst.
So in other words, if the guy calls and says, look, just give me your bank account number, we'll draft it out on a monthly basis. And
I had a girl call me just last week. She agreed to $100. They took $1,400, and she didn't know what to do. You gave them permission. The other problem is you don't have anything in writing when the next debt collector calls you and says, well, we just purchased this debt, and if you can't prove that you paid it, we're coming after you. We're going to put it on your credit, and oh, by the way, we may sue you also. The good news is there's people like Jerry out there. I've known Jerry for many years. Jerry and I are both members of the National Association of Consumer Advocates. Jerry preaches you should not deal with these type of people until or unless they can prove exactly what they owe.
That's true, and that type of thinking is prevalent everywhere, down to the courthouse. When I first started doing this kind of work, I once had a judge say, well, Jerry, what's your defense to this case? How are you going to defend it? I said, well, do I need a defense? You have to show something. I said, no, I don't have to show anything until they come forward and make a prima facie case to show that this is what my client owes, and here's the contract that it's based on. And if they can't do that, we're done. And if they can, then I'll worry about defending it.